Now, some of you may have heard, I'm not a particular fan of the BBC, but then there's an exception that proves every rule. And in this case, this video blog is going to complement the BBC, and BBC Scotland in particular, for having a survey, a YouGov survey, of people's attitudes in Scotland. Now, this is not a normal opinion poll. This is a matter not just of political identity and voting preferences, but identity in terms of what makes people think in the way they do about Scotland. It's a detailed survey. It's been expertly analysed, as you would expect, by Sir John Curtis, who provides a tremendous insight into what the raw data means. But there is one thing that stands out more than any other factor in that survey, and I'll come to that in a moment. Some of the things are not that surprising. People who vote SNP or yes voters in the referendum of 2014 tend to be more pro-Scottish, more proudly Scottish. They have a very strong Scottish identity. Some things are not surprising to me. I mean, SNP voters are more pro-European than other party voters in Scotland. They feel themselves to be European. They're also, and I think that bears out in my experience, in general terms, pretty broad-minded. A majority of SNP voters, in contrast to the other parties, believe that you become Scottish by majority if you believe yourself to be Scottish, which has always struck me as the only sensible definition of national identity. So these things weren't surprising to me. Some people remarked on the fact that only 7% of people in Scotland as a whole would be supporting England in the World Cup. But there's only 11% of people who are going to be supporting the teams playing against England. So most people are pretty sensible about that sort of thing as well. But these are interesting findings, but perhaps not dramatic or not that surprising. But there was one absolutely dramatic finding in this survey, and that is it asked for people's attitude towards Scotland. How proud they were of their country. Did they think it was better than any other country? Did they think it was the same? Did they think it was much worse? And quite clearly in the survey, people who supported yes or supported the SNP were more in line with the thought that Scotland's no bad place, actually. But even that wasn't the big finding. The big finding was views of the future. The vast majority of people who support the unionist parties in Scotland think the best days for Scotland are behind it, in the past. The vast majority of people who voted yes, and SNP voters now, believe that the best days for Scotland lie ahead, lie in the future. The best days for Scotland are yet to come. They're optimistic, they're positive about the prospects for our country. And that, I think, is not just the most dramatic finding of this survey, it was also the defining aspect of the referendum campaign of 2014. That is to say that yes voters were pursuing hope over fear, were positive about the future, thought that Scotland had great prospects if we can get our constitution and the powers of our parliament correct. That was the big dividing line in 2014. As this survey indicates, it's the big dividing line now, and it will be the big dividing line when the issue is put to the touch once again.